Hi everyone, I'm Allie with PotomacBeads. Join me in making the ribbon bracelet. The materials were listed out before you, and you can make this bracelet a little bit more simple or a little bit more dramatic by choosing different colors. Gather up those materials and join me in making this ribbon bracelet. So to begin the ribbon necklace, we have 2 needles on 0.006 wildfire thread. I'm using black thread so you can see it. And I have my clasp here, which is a Claspgarten brushed round in that gold plated to match my golden colored 2-hold cabochon. And the 2-hold cab that I'm using is a 6mm. However, you can do this with an actual 7mm cab as well. So I'm going to take my wire guard out of my clasp, and I'm going to put my thread and needle through the wire guard. We will come up and back the project, so we'll have a chance to reinforce as we're working on this. And I'll just take one of the needles here and move the other one out of the way. And I'm going through the wire guard, through both sides. So you can see it's like a little U shape, and I'm going through both sides of that wire guard. You want to make sure after coming out of the wire guard that when you're looking at the needles then, and you're kind of pulling the needles up, that both needles are going to sit, that you have the same amount of thread on either side. From there, with the needles, I'm going to take one of my needles and go through my clasp. Again, pull both of those needles to make sure that you're in the middle, and let that clasp sit inside of that wire guard. So let it just kind of go right in between there. From here, we're going to add 1 crystal, and what we're going to do for this crystal is go with both going in the same direction. So these are our 3x4mm crystal rondelles in that Turquoise Picasso, and both needles are going to go through the same direction. We're going to switch that up as we add more on, but for this first point here, we are going to go same direction. That way it kind of brings that wire guard into a nice little point in those beads there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start our actual design. We're going to be going down the middle of the project first and kind of going out to the sides, and then we're going to come back and get that ribbon effect. So to begin, I want you, because it is 2 needles, and I know it's a lot of thread, but we're going to be going back through the beads a couple times. Kind of shorten my tail here. And we're going to get ready to pick up our seed beads and our cab. So going through here, I'm going to take my right and my left needle, and generally speaking, when you're using 2 needles, whatever you do on the right hand side, you're also going to do on the left. So I have my 2 11-0s that I'm going to put on, and then I'm going to put on my first of my cabochons. When I put on the first cabochon, it really doesn't matter which hole I go through because we're establishing what's on the top and bottom. Every one after this, you're going to want to make sure, because it is flat on one side, that you have it sitting the correct direction. Let that drop down next to those seed beads, which will sit a little bit in a V there. From here, I'm going to take the needle that's on the left, and that for now is always going to stay to the left. The needle that's on the right is always going to stay to the right. On the right side, to begin, we are going to end up putting on our right side 1, 2, and crystal, and 1, 2. So we have 2 11s, a crystal, and 2 11s. We're going to spin back through that same 2-hold cab, which is going to put these beads out to the right-hand side. So you can see how it just sits right there. On this left-hand side, we're going to grab 2 beads, just like we did. Then we're going to grab a SuperDuo, and we're going to grab 2 beads. Same thing here, go from left side, from the bottom back to the top. The reason that this is only going to work with a 2-hold bead is because of, if you use a 1-hold bead, that thread they are not going to stay right and left. Coming out of the bead here, I want you to grab 2 11s, just like we've been doing, so 2 kind of is the count on the side. Then 2 more 11s on the other side, and then again the 3x4mm rondelle. Here's where we're going to crisscross. So we have 1 needle that's going from right to left, and the other that is going to go from left to right. Pull these equal distance, and here's a good double place, or a place to double check that you still have that equal amount of thread on both sides. You can see there it makes a little X there. Coming back here, we're going to do the same thing, coming out of that rondelle, 2 11s, And then again, here's where you want to make sure that you're picking your cabochon up rather, so that it's facing the same direction as the one prior to it. Again, now left side, 2 11s, go through the other side of the cab. Now the pattern is the exact same through all the cabs where we're going to spin around them. However, we're going to alternate sides. So on this first side here, the SuperDuo is on the left. This time I'm going to pick it up with the right needle, put those 2 11s, then my SuperDuo on the right, and then 2 11s. Go back through that bead on the right. From here then, I'm going to do the left, and on the left hand side, again, we're going to switch so that way it's opposite. Left hand side is going to be 2 beads, then our rondelle, and then 2 beads. And that's going to go through that cabochon then on the left hand side. So from now on, we repeat this whole thing up and down the right and the left sides, but when we're repeating it, again, we're just going to alternate which side. So you can see right here that on the first one I have the SuperDuo to the left, second one to the right, the next one to the left, right, and so on. You want to try to end your bracelet so that way they're opposite sides, that whatever side you started with, you end with the opposite side as you're working. From here, you're going to put 2 seed beads on both the left and the right needle, cross through a 3x4 rondelle, seed beads on each side, and repeat that pattern, flipping from right to left. Just to show as you're working, you're going to have that opposite pattern. I have 3 times now put the wrong beads on the wrong sides and had to take it apart. But you can see there that SuperDuo going from left to right to left to right to left to right, and then the crystal rondelle also snaking back and forth. Again, that's going to get that nice kind of twisting ribbon look as we come back through the project. So I'm continuing on with these beautiful colors, and I forgot to mention I'm using a Toho 11-0, which is actually rare for me because I really like some of their colors. And the color that I'm using is the Marbled Opaque Beige Pink. It's really pretty, along with the Aztec Gold or the Flax Gold or that light gold color of the cab, and then going with, again, that Jade Picasso in the SuperDuo as well as the Turquoise Picasso in the Rondelle. So as you get to the end and you are coming out of your last cabochon, it's time to put on the other side of the clasp. Remember, when we started, we put on the wire guard, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to put on 2 of our 11-0 seed beads on both the right needle and the left needle. So I want 2 on the right, 2 on the left, and then just like the other side, we're going to go through one of our 3x4mm crystals, going through in the same direction. So we have 1 needle going through one needle going through the other. Again, same direction. When you do that, that brings it into that nice V shape here, just like on the other side. From here, we're going to go up through the wire guard, and I'm going to start with 1 needle, and then I'm going to do it with the second needle as well. Go up through the wire guard, down through the wire guard, and then put your end through that needle as well. So this is that second end, so it's just the little clip part. And into that it goes. I'm going to pull that close down next to the project. Other needle is going to go through the opposite way. That way you get 2 pieces of thread through the wire guard, which is going to help to keep it a little bit more protected, since that's where you're going to take it on and off. So you're going back through the wire guard, down the other side of the wire guard, and at the same time through the clasp and out. So what you're going to end up having is a needle coming out of one side of the wire guard and a needle coming out of the other side of the wire guard. That's going to get us set up here, giving a nice tight pull then, making sure that your thread stays in that little channel of the wire guard because you don't want it popping out. And then I'm going to take both threads and needle and come down through that 3x4mm rondelle, and we're exiting there. Once we exit through that 3x4mm rondelle, the clasp is on. Oh, we got that twisted through. The clasp is on that side, and now we get to come back through and make that nice ribboning effect, going down through that right hand side and then crossing over to the left. Now that we're down through the side piece here, what we're gonna do is start our ribboning effect. The one needle is just gonna kind of hang out there and wait there for later. With one of the needles, you're gonna pick up 2 of your 11s in that champagne color, then 1 of your crystals, then 2 11s, and we're gonna take those 5 beads and go through the second hole of that SuperDuo bead. Once at the SuperDuo, to enhance that ribboning effect, we're going to add 3 of our pink, those opaque luster beige pink. Add 3 of those, and you're going back through the SuperDuo, again in that rounded effect, to put those 3 seed beads along the top of the SuperDuo. After the SuperDuo, add 2 11s, 1 of your crystals, 2 11s, and then you're going to go through the rondelle that sits below the cab. This is why we faced that rondelle, so that way the holes were facing lateral. That gets our first ribboning effect. From here, then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. 2 11s in that champagne color, crystal, 2 11s. And here I like to sew kind of with that right-handed needle, so I'm going to switch here, just hold it differently. As you're coming out there then, here's where you grab your 3 Toho seed beads. Go back through that SuperDuo, so that way those seed beads are going to sit along the side. Make sure to pull them that way, so that way they kind of sit in that little point. 2 11s, 1 crystal, 2 11s, back through that middle seed bead. When you pull that, then I'll put it down so you can kind of see that ribboning effect, that it's kind of scooting back and forth. So the one side is sitting open, the other side has that ribboning effect going on. So I'm going to continue on doing that same pattern and growing the bracelet, making it look a little bit thicker, with getting that ribboning pattern along the outer edge. Switching basically from the left to the right, and that's why we switch those SuperDuos so they're sitting on opposite sides. Once you're done coming down the side, you can see kind of that nice snaking effect. If you want to even make it more dramatic, what you can do is change that crystal color, not to match the actual SuperDuo, and then you'll see kind of a little bit more of that dramatic. At this point, if you wanted to, you could stop. When I got to the end here, I went back through the clasp, and coming down then through the wire guard, it just kind of happened that as we ended up, I went through the wire guard and then back down through the clasp, and I still have to come down the wire guard. If you do want to end and you don't want to do the next step and don't want it to be as involved, you're just going to take this other thread here, kind of snake it down and tie it off as well. If you want to make it a little bit more dramatic with me, you're going to take, coming out of your 2 11-0 seed beads, you're going to take 5 of your champagne seed beads, put them on the needle, and scoot over to the 3 seed beads that sit above the SuperDuo. Coming out those 3 seed beads that sit above the SuperDuo, add 5 more 11s onto your needle, and then you're going to go through those 2 seed beads that sit after the last rondelle, through the middle rondelle, and then through the 2 seed beads on the opposite end of the rondelle. Next, again, 5 seed beads onto the needle. Go through those 3 seed beads that sit right above that SuperDuo bead. And then again, kind of switching it here so that way I can sew away from me. Move those beads a little bit, and looks like I got 4 on, I'm missing 1, so I'll sew back out through. A lesson in sewing back out through: sometimes the thread will get kind of caught up there, sometimes it won't, so just be aware of that. You may need to take off your needle if you sew back. So I had 4, I need 5, must have lost 1 somewhere, and then go back up through. If you want to make the tip a little bit more dramatic here, you can even take a 15-0 seed bead and put it in between beads 1 and 2, and then in between beads 2 and 3. Coming out of those 3 seed beads that sit above the SuperDuo, again, you're adding 5 seed beads. And when you add your 5 champagne seed beads, You're then going through the two that sit after the rondelle. So you're basically creating that ribboning edge around the rondelle. And then through the two that sit after the rondelle, through that middle bead. And again, you could stop if you wanted to back where, before we started this. But you can see again, that's getting that ribboning effect even more dramatic as we go. So I'm going to continue to go through and add that ribboning effect throughout the bracelet, and then get to the end and tie the two threads together and finish it off. So one thing I should have mentioned as I was doing it kind of to the beginning was that as you put in those 5 seed beads, it's going to force the crystals to kind of sit up and get more of that ribboning pattern. So make sure as you are doing this that the seed beads that you're doing are kind of going below. So as you add those 5 seed beads, make sure that the crystals kind of pop towards the top, and that's going to take care of that. If you do want, again, more of that ribboning effect and to see it a little bit more, on this opposite side of the cabochon, you can just decorate it with seed beads, and that way over here it would be smaller, that you would just have 5 seed beads rather than the seed beads as well as the crystal. So I'm at the end of the ribbon bracelet, and coming up through the actual bracelet then, I have my last seed beads in place and that last ribboning effect. And what I'm going to do with the initial first needle is come down the other side of the wire guard and out through that rondelle, which leads my needles into ending in the same location, which is nice when you have 2 needles because you're actually going to go through and literally just tie a knot of the 2 beads or the 2 thread ends together. Again, I used black thread so that way you could see it a little bit. I think it makes it a little bit easier to see rather than using a white or a green thread, which I would traditionally do with this color of beads. But this makes it a little bit easier. So you will see the knot probably a little bit, but if you're using a thread that matches, like I suggested in the beginning, you will not see that knot. Once I have those done and the knots there, I can bring them back towards the back of the project by taking the needles towards the back. And you could have taken your needles off at that point. What I like to do then, since they're still on there, is I'll take one of the threads and actually take it back through the middle here. So that way it's coming out in a different location. That way when I burn off the thread end, the little ball that's made will not be in the same exact spot. So I'll take my thread zap or my thread burner, and again my battery is dying, I can tell. And I'm going to go in here and burn off the extra thread. Keep that low, and then burn it flush against the project. And get that down. Take the other one here and do the same thing. Burn it down low, and then take that thread burner towards that end of the project and burn off that extra thread. And there I have it. My ribbon bracelet is completed. And keep in mind, as you're doing this bracelet, if you want to, it would look like a really pretty necklace. Along the necklace, when it comes to the bottom, you could actually add some drops as well to kind of amplify it. If you want to get more of that snaking and ribbon effect, take away the crystal here and add a little smaller seed bead, and that's going to get more of that effect. Again, the 2 holes are needed. I know I'm going to get questions. The 2 holes are needed in order to keep those beads stationary and put in where they're supposed to be. So go ahead and kind of change it up a little bit. You can list in the comments exactly how you changed it and kind of made it your own, and exactly what colors you picked. That helps the people that are watching as well after you, to help give them new ideas and new decisions to make while creating the ribbon bracelet. Thanks so much for watching the ribbon bracelet. Keep in mind, if you need any of the materials, they're listed below me in the description near that show more button, as well as near that subscribe and like button. In those links, you can get products from us at PotomacBeads.com, as well as PotomacBeads.eu. Again, if you subscribe to this YouTube channel, you get regular updates on new products, new beads, new patterns, and things that you should know. As well, you can become a member of our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making, which is a wonderful, wonderful interactive forum group on Facebook that helps to give ideas, suggestions, and really a plethora of inspiration. As always, thank you so much for watching, and enjoy making your own ribbon bracelet.